So I had one, it was more like a long experience. I had a couple dreams, but in this longer experience, it's like as I'm dreaming, I'm kind of snuggling up to your back, with my back up against your back. And in a way, I'm trying to do something with you, but instead, I'm doing some kind of work with a member of our group. And I can't remember what the work was like, but I had to keep doing that work, which was okay in a way, except I was also trying to be with you. I couldn't really be with you because I had to be doing this work with him, some kind of energetic work with him. That went on for quite a while.
The theme of the dreaming last night was to be like a vacuum cleaner, kind of, to be able to sweep up energetics that are parts of ourselves that are stranded or estranged. And they're stranded or estranged because we have gone through things in life that have caused us to break the linkage to the whole. And you can't connect to the whole without taking on the wholeness. Now you take on this wholeness in stages. Like, first of all, you have to kind of merge with the teacher. Well, part of that process is you also then have to accept life in terms of how life is. The most complicated thing then in life would be human beings who have the freedom of choice that has caused them to go off on some other octave. So you have to work towards being with that. Well, you do this in stages. Just like you have a process that connects and sees the higher self of your nature through the way that the teacher works with bringing that into clarity. You also have to come to see how, in a group mannerism or setting, that you are part of all of that, that you don't see and come to recognize yourself as on a path, for example, that's doing its thing but is separate from them. So now you're catching up with what is a like-minded kind of similitude that is easier for you to see, especially if it's like a type of catching up with the group energy or the reincarnated group energy. But that then has to ultimately shift as well. First you have to be able to do that, to then realize that there's still something wrong with this picture, in that you still have issues with the density of things in terms of people and such in the outer. So ultimately you're going to have to absorb, be like a vacuum cleaner, absolve yourself of any ill will or separation or confusion that leads to separation in terms of everyone else. Until you do that, you just have to sit and watch. You have to take on that responsibility that has created the distance, the gap. And if you don't do that, then you're continuing on all levels to make decisions in relationship to the vibration, or however you want to say this trait is, in which you carry some mannerism, attitude, belief, judgment, need for security, however you would say that. As long as you carry some sense of that, then you, first of all, can't properly connect to the teacher. Second of all, you can't properly realize how you fit within the group and the wholeness of the group. And third, you can't bring any of that into the world as long as you don't accept human beings in the condition that they are in. If you have a belief that the way they are is a problem for you, and that their ignorance weighs you down or endangers where you've gotten to, as if it can be taken away, then you don't make the necessary step or shift. So your dream actually has a higher octave sense to it. One of the reasons why something can't shift or evolve is because there's still this idea or need to have to determine and distinguish between what energetics are important and what energetics are not important, instead of getting to the point that you can be with, work with, accept, accommodate all things, even though they may come across as hitting you in a way that you consider as a kind of craziness or anger or evil or controlling. If you can get to the point where this sort of thing is set aside in terms of everything in the outer, you hit a kind of compassion upon which the world was created. In other words, the world wasn't created to have the feuds of things going at it that ultimately destroy it. The world was created so that everything could rejoice and flow, and in the process, everybody being open and free like that makes for the overall to work, as opposed to individuals thinking they have to climb a tree towards better and better jobs and security and whatnot. That always comes at the expense of some separation or pushing away from others, as if that is necessary in order to enjoy some concept of the good life that each person tends to have. And so your dream is showing that other than a connection to the teacher and to the immediate environment around you, you have to open yourself up to take on that connection as it relates to the group, the wholeness of that. And from that, then, your prayer will extend to what the teacher didn't talk about. It will then open up to the prayer or the connection to the whole, to the world, soul. And for that to happen, and it can't happen until you have taken and set aside whatever grievance it is that you carry in any regard, that somehow or another vents some aspect of anger or frustration, or raises issues of emotion, or however it affects each person. Now, in your particular case, the principle of getting angry and upset and whatnot, you've gotten a long ways with that, and you know that that doesn't accomplish anything. But can you then continue on that thread and take it out to the point where you can accept everything in your environment, where your perspective becomes broad enough to take all that in? If it does, and if it can, then I think the story about whether there's two components or not goes away, because there's only a oneness. So your dream is catching up and is pointing out stages of development and explaining how you're racing out on one stage to expand out and accept. And that stage is in relationship to the similitude of the group and the degree to which you are intertwined to get you to fully accept that. But then there will be the outer, and to what degree can you take and accommodate and heal the surrounding.